Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which is going to take us around the 16th of March. So we're heading into the middle of the month with the 10-day time frame now, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS, which runs around a couple of weeks, and ECM ensembles. Have a quick look at the end CFS V2 for the next month. The 5-day forecast has just been released, so it could be a very unsettled 5 days coming up. Showers or longer spells of rain. Will be hail, snow at times in the north, hail, thunder, maybe some gale force winds. So it's all going on in the next 5 days. Have a look at that when you're finished with this video. So, as I said, we're in a very unsettled spell of weather. At the moment, we're going to extend out beyond 5-day forecast period right now. We're starting off with the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for this video, and we're looking at Bridgewater down in Somerset today, the latest suggested place for this part of the video. If you'd like to see your local town or city featured in the video, then please email gazraviz@gmail.com or contact us via the comments at YouTube or via social media, and we're always happy to feature your local town or city in this part of the video. So this red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Bridgewater, and you can see that at the moment we're a little bit milder than average. We're going to go cooler over the next 24 hours, and we're going quite cold actually over the weekend and into next week. Looks like temperatures are going to be rather below average through much of next week. Into the second half of March, which is this period just here, we are seeing signs of a bit of a warming trend taking place then within the GFS ensembles, although there is a lot of scatter in there. But I think the general theme within the GFS ensembles is definitely shifting towards something milder as we go into the second half of March, with many of these GFS ensemble members going above the red 30-year upper air temperature average. It's also going to be remaining very unsettled, so lots of precipitation spikes coming up over the next few days, particularly wet over the end of the weekend into the start of next week. So very big precipitation spikes then. Just go a little bit drier just into the second half of the month. That's the middle of March just there. So just beyond that, few days of drier weather. But overall, perhaps not looking quite as dry for the second half of March as it looked within the GFS ensembles yesterday. So maybe a little bit of doubt about this idea of high pressure building in the second half of the month. Still the warming trend is there, but maybe not quite as dry in the second half of the month as it looked as though it might have been when we did yesterday's video update. This is all very extended range stuff, so it's all very unreliable in any case. Temperature anomalies from the 6th through to the 14th of March, generally a little bit on the cooler than average side, particularly so for northern parts of the country, close to average really for England and Wales. But I think overall we are slightly on the cooler than average side in the week ahead, particularly up in the north. Precipitation anomalies above average, so it remains unsettled. The 6th to the 14th of March has above average precipitation, not just for the UK and Ireland, but for many northern and western parts of Europe. In America, it's a cold sea. Most parts of the United States colder than average in weekend with their temperature anomaly, and also looking quite unsettled for many parts of America as well, as away from that east coast where it's a bit drier there on the eastern seaboard. Generally, it's above average with precipitation, and with still cold and average temperature anomalies, you will think there is a risk of some fairly widespread snow, perhaps, particularly for northern parts of America. This is how the GFS is looking for Saturday then. Low pressures to the north of Scotland, and it's bringing in this showery west or northwesterly wind that could bring wintry showers to northern parts of the country. England Wales probably mainly dry. This all covered by the 5-day forecast, of course. Another trough is pushing across the country on Sunday. That will bring more widespread showers. And as we go through Monday into Tuesday, we've got this deep area of low pressure heading in off the Atlantic. That'll give a very unsettled start to next week with severe gale force winds potentially for some of us, and lots of heavy rain. Quite cold air being dragged in on the northern side of this low. Could see rain turning to snow in the north as well. That's Wednesday next week. In a week's time, we're in this cold, showery north to northwesterly wind. That brings more wintry showers to northern and western parts of the country. And the next low pressure's rolling through. That brings rain to the south. Possibility of snow, not only on hills, but maybe to lower levels for more northern parts of the country as this low pressure moves into that cold air. That low pressure gets out of the way as we're running up towards day 10. This is Friday the 15th of March. Means back into the north, again bringing the risk of more snow showers to northern parts of the country as cold air begins to dig back in from the north once more. That's how we look at day 10, which is Saturday the 16th of March. Low pressure is just developing in situ around the country, so it'll be a case of showers or longer spells of rain, and probably still cold enough for snow, particularly but not exclusively on hills in the north. We get rid of the low pressure as we move through to Sunday the 17th of March. This is going into the extended range, of course, beyond day 10. And that turns the winds into a direct northerly, but we are pulling high pressure into the west. So it turns drier. It's quite cold, but it does turn drier just a little bit beyond day 10. We start to break out of this very unsettled spell of weather. And then that high pressure actually sits around the country for a few days as we go up to the second half of the month. So this is Wednesday the 20th of March, for instance. It's 348 hours away. It's a long way out, but we are generally under high pressure, and it's starting to turn milder, maybe even warmer again as the winds are beginning to swing back into the south once more. Let's have a look at the very end of the GFS run today, which is Friday 22nd of March. A high pressure man is drifting away up towards Scandinavia and low pressure developing out in the Atlantic, so it's turning more unsettled again. There'll be rain coming back into the west, but it would be quite mild, maybe even fairly warm, with temperatures rising into the mid-teens Celsius. So definite signs of returning to more spring-like conditions in the second half of the month with the 6 o'clock GFS operational run. Let's see how the parallel compares. This is the 6 o'clock GFS parallel run. So again on Saturday, it looks unsettled for the north, wintry showers there. For the south, probably under that little bump of high pressure, but by Sunday we're all back into low pressure, so showers or longer spells of rain really for Sunday. Early next week turns very unsettled. The way models are handling this low pressure Monday to Tuesday is varying from run to run, but overall it does look as though it's going to turn really unsettled, a real blow on the way early next week, and lots of heavy rain as well with that low pressure. As the low pressure sinks through the country in the middle of the next week, starts to turn the wind back into that cold northerly, so there's our little mid-month cold snap perhaps through the middle and second half next week. That's how we look on Thursday. We're into a cold northerly wind, bringing wintry showers to northern eastern parts of the country. The next low is out in the Atlantic. That moves in as you head up towards day 10, bringing more rain across many parts of the country. And as that low pressure moves out into the North Sea, here comes another push from the north again. So repeated northerly shots of colder air around the middle part of March, but with wet and windy periods in between those areas of low pressure heading off the Atlantic. Moving into the extended range with the parallel GFS run, we keep things quite cold and unsettled really. Low pressure is sitting over Scandinavia, high pressure's out to the north and west of the UK, and the winds are generally coming in from a north to northwesterly direction. Actually, it does build up a little bit of northern blocking around Greenland and Iceland in the very extended range. This is as far as we go with a parallel run to Friday 22nd of March, and it's putting down quite a cold north to northeast wind. That would probably be cold to bring snow showers into northern eastern parts of the country, but it's a very, very long way out, but it's unreliable, and I wouldn't take that particularly seriously. It does look as though the middle of March does have some wintry potential, but I'm not sure we'll set up anything really cold, and that would be really quite a cold pattern indeed. If you look at the upper air temperatures, you see that we have got some genuinely cold air sitting just to our northeast. So that does finish up on quite a cold and wintry note, the parallel GFS run. But I suspect it will be a cold outlier if we was to be able to see it within the GFS ensembles. ECMWF is looking like this, so once again we've got an unsettled weekend coming up, maybe not too bad in the south on Saturday, showery up in the north, then all parts of the country turning showery on Sunday. Into the early part of next week, wet and windy weather pushing across the country. It's a bit further north with that low pressure, Monday to Tuesday. So not got severe gales, but we've certainly got strong winds, probably up to gale force for western parts of the country, and there'd be an active weather front bringing quite a lot of wet weather in off the Atlantic as well. Middle of next week, so again looks very unsettled, not as much of a northerly for the middle of next week, so not quite as cold away from Scotland anyway. But generally cool and unsettled, really. And that's how we look as we go up towards day 10. And by then, we are starting to dig colder air in from the north, actually. We've still got low pressure down to the south. So that could bring wet weather across southern parts of the country. On the northern edge of that, potential for a little bit of snow, perhaps, for some central parts of the country. Just a suggestion, it's going to be quite cool or cold and unsettled, really, through the middle part of March. But the detail is to be determined. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles from the Icelandic Met Office today at day 10. So that's the 16th of March, of course. Excuse me, we've got 29 members of the ECM ensembles, including the control and operational run. That's the run we're just looking at. That are very unsettled at day 10 with low pressure over and to the east of the country, and they're pulling down pretty cold air from the north as well, so those ones are pretty cold and unsettled at day 10. There's a more minority option, although quite a appreciable number, 22, so it's 43% versus 56%, so not a 50-50 split, but certainly there's a strong sort of minority option to have high pressure be building from the southwest within the ECM ensembles. Obviously that's a drier and a milder scenario. That would be bringing the air up from the middle of the Atlantic, and with the high pressure or the above average heights over into the southwest of the country will be turning a lot drier as well. So there's a bit of a split around day 10, but generally the ECM ensembles are still favouring cool to quite cold and unsettled conditions. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. So this is 360 hours, the 21st of March. So we've got 18 members of the ECM ensembles, including the control run. Operational run doesn't go beyond day 10. Of course. So there's 18 members of the ECM ensembles that do hinge at a bit of northern blocking, actually. We've got a ridge through the middle of the Atlantic, and they're taking it up to Greenland with below average heights to the east, maybe bringing in quite cold winds from the north or northeast. I suppose that's in line with what the GFS parallel run is showing. So that cold GFS parallel run in the very extended range, that's not without support within the ECM ensembles. Then there's another 13 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure out to the north-west. This doesn't quite take it as far into Greenland as these 18 just here, but it's sort of the same idea really, with below average heights to the south and southeast. Again, they'd be pulling in quite cold winds from the north or from the northeast. There's 10 that have high pressure over and to the south of the country, so they're a drier but a milder option. They're bringing winds up from the middle of the Atlantic. And finally, there's 10, or another 10, with low pressure still churning away from the Atlantic, so they're unsettled, relatively mild. They're bringing the winds in from the west. So the colder options in 2 weeks' time are these options just here. That's 18 and 13 members of the ECM ensembles, which is going to take us to 31. I think 31 members of the ECM ensembles look quite cold in a couple of weeks. And then there's 20 that are a milder option, albeit we've got 10 that are quite settled and 10 that are unsettled. But those 20 are a milder option. So overall, the ECM ensemble is probably favouring colder conditions in a couple of weeks. Let's just have a look at the CFS V2. These are the 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 6th to the 12th of March. The coming week looks really unsettled, below average heights over and to the northwest of the UK, bringing in the westerlies, so the jet stream and westerly winds dominating with low pressure, bringing showers along the spells range. Can be very unsettled and quite cool week ahead. And this goes on into week 2 as well. This is the 13th to the 19th of March. Again, below average heights over and to the north of the country. Looks unsettled and potentially quite cold as well with that scenario. That's bringing the wind down from like Greenland and Iceland, that sort of area. So not only does it look unsettled for the middle of March, still hinting at something quite cold potentially there as well. Big change for week 3. CFS is consistently flagging this up this week. So this is the 20th to 26th of March with high pressure band building through the country, heading up towards Scandinavia. So we're under high pressure. Oh, it's turning much drier. Probably bringing wind in from an easterly type direction. So not overly mild, maybe even quite cold actually. With that, although it is extending to a ridge in the Atlantic, so it wouldn't take all that much to start to turn those easterlies to more sort of southeasterlies. If that happened, obviously that would be a much milder scenario. And then finally we finish up in week 4, which is the 27th of March to the 2nd of April. Above average heights then extending from Greenland and Iceland down into Scandinavia, but in central and eastern parts of Europe, low pressures in the middle of the Atlantic. So this is, I think, almost certainly bringing wind up from a southeasterly to southerly direction. This will be a lot milder. Still a lot of dry weather, I would have thought, but a lot milder there as we go into the end of March and the beginning of April. Temperatures really getting quite a boost. Obviously, if that low pressure was to start to undercut the ridge, and the ridge was to become centred around Greenland and Iceland, so let's just show you how that would happen. If this low pressure here started to undercut the ridge and take the jet stream down there, and this high pressure was to become centred over here, so you lose this ridge, that all gets filled up with low pressure, then you will start to pull down cold air from the north-northeast. So it's one of those charts that's probably mild on face value, but it will only take a slight adjustment to potentially be rather colder, perhaps at the start of April. But that's a really long way off. Let's come back to what we know in the more reasonable time frame, which is next week to 10 days. So very unsettled conditions for the rest of this week, over the weekend, and into next week. Up to the end of next week, generally, it's looking low pressure dominated and quite cold at times as well. So there will be risk of snow, particularly over hills in the north, but not exclusively so, perhaps down to lower levels in the north next week. Down in the south, primarily looking at rain, although temperatures will probably be on the cool side. The second half of the month is still presenting some questions. Within all of the model out, there's probably some sort of idea of a change towards higher pressure, let's just say that. But exactly where that higher pressure would be sitting and what it would do for temperatures, that kind of thing. Would it be would it bring warmer winds, or would it bring cooler winds? All of that really to be determined. So I think it's the next week to 10 days that we have to focus on, which is really unsettled conditions up to possibly even a little bit beyond mid-month. And then we watch out to see what happens as we go into the second half of March. We'll be back tomorrow with your regular week to 10 day video update, so come back for that then. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.